Anish,
Hey, how are you?
all good. How are you?
Great. It's nice to see you.
We got a white t-shirt thing going on today.
Oh,
Yeah, that,
Um, cool. Sorry, I'll go for it, Guillermo. I'll let you take it from here.
yeah, for sure. So to give you a little bit of context, Anish, I work at a small venture capital fund in Spain, but have been like I built a small startup before, and now I've built a little bit of a small media company,
hmm.
and I'm angel investing as well, like pretty like spending most of my money right now in angel investing. Um, and yeah, so I've built this media company that it's kind of just I started writing on Substack about startups, and it
Hmm.
just grew, and now like I'm impacting like I don't know, like 1 to 3 million people like weekly.
Wow.
And yeah, mostly on LinkedIn, but also like on the newsletters I have like 500,000 reads a month.
Wow.
So and right now like the hot topics obviously like it's is AI. So Brittany sent me one of your writings, and we thought it would be really cool to talk about it.
I love it. Yeah. No, that's amazing. And it's funny because I was just in Spain and I loved it. And then two of my most exciting companies, all of the founders are Spanish.
No
Uh,
way.
yeah, Korea and Happy Robot.
Yeah, I know them. Yeah, of
You
course.
know those guys? Yeah. You'll have to tell me who the third set of Spanish founders will be.
Well, there are a couple really interesting Spanish companies right now, but I'll tell you later if you want which
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah, that
But
sounds great.
yeah, the Korea guys, I remember I was trying to invest in them when they were, I think they did HFO,
Yep.
and
Yep.
they didn't even answer me. They were already like too important.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, they didn't answer us either. They literally, we sent them emails for 6 months. There's zero
No,
response, Yeah. They're very heads down. Hey, by the way, is it Guillermo or Gael? Because I see your,
Guillermo. Yeah, sorry, that's like the short thing, but Guillermo is okay.
okay.
Whatever you can pronounce. It's not so easy.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah. No, they're wonderful. They're really, they're original thinkers. They got so much energy inside them. It's a pleasure to work with them.
Yeah. And Happy Robot, I also I've heard a lot about them. I actually spoke with some of their go-to-market team to do some collaboration with the newsletter as well, like I think 1 month ago.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. Also lovely people. If I keep
Yeah.
investing in Spanish founders, I'm gonna have to have like a paella party or something.
Yeah, actually, like Spain is a really small ecosystem in terms of tech, but I keep seeing more and more Spanish people going to SF, and there's like it's kind of like there's a little bit of a community kind of like building up of Spanish founders, and I think it's really cool. So really excited about seeing, and helping the next generation.
I love it. I love it. Great. Well, let's get into it, man. What should we talk about today?
Dude, I don't know. AI. I was reading like oh, so you built a consumer company before, and now you're investing in consumer. Obviously, like you're looking at a lot of AI consumer tech, and Korea is consumer.
Mhm.
And you were saying in your write up, you were talking about how like many of these apps nowadays are charging $200 per month.
Mhm.
It's crazy, no? So
Yeah.
what do you think? Like, I think one of the hot topics that I discuss a lot right now is OpenAI is kind of like building the AI for everything. How do you think new startups should build their products to be able to, not compete with OpenAI?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. That's a great question. We should talk about everything, especially the price thing, because my theory for this market is that nobody has a marketing problem anymore. You can only have a product problem in this
Right.
market. If your competitors are charging $200 a month and raising prices, then that just means that if your thing is not working, the product value is insufficient. So I think there are no marketing problems in this era. There are only product problems, but we'll talk about that. If you look back to the predictions in 22, the predictions were that there would only be one foundation model to rule them all. And that model would be winner take all, and all the other foundation models would either be out of business or have to cut prices and be these value players. And instead, what you've seen is that all of the different foundation model companies have just ended up pointed in different directions. So Claude is very good for creative writing and code. OpenAI is probably the most horizontal consumer-facing model. Mistral does a lot of things sort of on-prem and security and sovereign AI. And Gemini is just a great overall low-cost provider, and they're all working, they're all growing, they're all raising prices. So it's interesting because it breaks the conventional wisdom that we've had in tech for so many years of winner-take-all outcomes. So one, we're seeing it at the foundation model layer, that these things are actually not competitive. They're maybe even complementary. I bet if we looked at the credit card data, we'd find the sort of highest tier subscribers of ChatGPT are more likely to be the highest tier subscribers of Claude as well. So I think that's actually the shape of the market. So one, I think we're living in a market where there's an opportunity for hyper specialization. And even when you feel like, I'm somewhat overlapping with the foundation models, even the foundation models themselves have not been zero sum. So I think for startups, I would worry less about overlapping with the foundation models and more about, look, are we delivering the sort of level of value that we can deliver to the customer to cause them to pay $200, $300, $400 a month for our product?
Yeah, absolutely. And what spaces are you most excited about right now?
Yeah, I'm spending time in a lot of markets. So a big market where we spent time in historically has been voice. Voice is incredible. It feels like this is the AI insertion point into the enterprise. And companies like Happy Robot that we were discussing have done such a great job of building a really sophisticated set of software around voice. I think voice in and of itself is probably not enough, but it's a great wedge because so much of human business is intermediated this way, right? With voice and with phone calls and eventually with faces. So voice is really exciting. I think the big thing that's changing in voice is we're going from the first gen, which was last year, where it was sort of this customer support, calls of low value. And it's moving up to being the most important calls that happen in an organization. And Happy Robot, which for your listeners that don't know, it's voice AI for freight brokers. So a trucker will get on the phone with the AI and we'll sort of negotiate on the cost of a load, and they'll befriend them. And it's a really important job. It's essentially frontline sales for these freight brokers. They were the first example of a company I saw that was saying, hey, what's the most high value phone call that happens in the business? Let's have the AI do that. And I think that's the trend we're going to see. In a given month or a given year, the most important phone call that happens in a business is going to be handled by the AI, and all the way down. So voice has been so exciting. And also, we've got emotion coming into voice, which matters a lot. So that's been a big area of focus. Right now, I'm spending all my free time in app generation, sort of roughly the vibe coding stuff. And it's so exciting because just like the foundation model thing, I think the misunderstanding is that, it's zero sum, it's Replit versus Lovable versus Bolt versus, but the truth is all of those products are growing, and I suspect they're growing in different directions. And there's many more startups that we're meeting. And, this latent demand that consumers have to make software, I think we all underestimated how big it is and how big it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of like the Shopify effect. I was hearing like this chat by Tobias Lutke talking about how when he was starting to fundraise for Shopify, many VCs would tell him that there wasn't enough market because at the time, not a lot of, there weren't a lot of small e-commerces because either you had like a lot of resources or you couldn't build your, technological infrastructure. And basically like he opened up that market with Shopify. And I think it's kind of similar, like a lot of people weren't able to be building applications, and what these apps are doing is basically creating a new market, not because they're opening up that possibility for these people. And I think that's fantastic for sure.
I love that analogy. I'd actually love to watch that episode because that's exactly right. How many people want to open an online store? And it turns out a lot of people do. I also think that there's a type of app that would make no sense to invest in or build 2 years ago. So I'm working on a very funny app right now that watches TV and day trades based on what it sees on TV.
Wow.
It's half of an experiment, but it's half of just, I think it's going to be funny on Twitter because I'm going to have it watch CNBC and Home and Garden Channel and, all this other silly stuff. But it's really, it's an app that I'm building that's disposable sort of for a joke. It's taken me 2 days to work on it. And, 5 years ago, the idea of building something that complex for a joke, I mean, who would do that, So I think there are also these other types of applications, potentially much more disposable, that we can now build.
Yeah, I've built a couple of tools as well, and I'm building now like another one. Like one of the easy ones that I built was, so I write a lot of newsletters, right? And I thought that on Reddit you find a lot of really good topics. Like of course, like there's like a lot of startup threads, right? And it's really good because people would ask about really important questions like, how can I fundraise if I'm not growing and I'm like at Series A, for example, no? And a lot of experienced people answer. And so I built an AI that you go on a Reddit thread, you copy the URL, and it creates a newsletter. Like basically it scans like the question and every answer, and it builds a newsletter of it.
I love it.
Like easy to use, and valuable, because then it's kind of like I write for startups, so I go copy it, boom, I have a newsletter.
I love it.
And
How did you build it?
With Lovable. But it's very simple. You basically have to connect I connected the API of Reddit, the API of OpenAI, and the interface of that I built on Lovable. So it's basically and I prompted OpenAI. So I basically created a structure for every newsletter that every newsletter comes out very similar. It's basically like analyzing the title, analyzing the question, and then creating answers, like a number of answers based on the comments. It's fairly simple. Yeah, like once you start to understand how like the models work, it gets easier. But then what's complex is to make it like you need to tell the model really exactly what you want. And I think what becomes harder is to make it more flexible. So I think that's when you have to work with more complex, I don't know, rags or whatever. I'm not super technical, but I guess.
I love it. I want to try it. You'll have to send me a link after this.
Yeah, send it to you. The other one that I'm building right now, I'm actually like this one. I'm doing it with this guy that was building Siri like at Apple. He quit like, I don't know, like 2 months ago to build a startup, and I posted about this, and he reached out, and now we're like playing around a little bit. It's like also like kind of like for newsletters or a different edge. I was thinking, so how newsletters you send out, like, and you must do this, like you create a lot of content or you put out your thoughts as well out there, no? With these newsletters, the thing is that you create content and you have an email list, and when you publish the content, it's the same content for everybody. And that is not great because then the content is not really personalized. Like the point is, some of those people might have the problem that you're talking about, but many of them might not at the time. They are subscribed to your newsletter because they like what you write, but many times maybe hit on what they want. So I'm building this tool that creates personalized newsletters for them. So basically you put your email list, they'll like kind of like an agent that will talk to them and will gather information from them, and then it pushes kind of like a weekly newsletter with like that it's kind of like focused on them. So I think there's a lot of fun stuff you can play with that. And actually I am charging for this at $200 a month.
Are you good? You will raise prices. That's my feedback.
Yeah. No, but I started, my prices were like $2,000 a month at the beginning. So
yeah,
I had to lower them.
Sometimes you have to work your way up.
Yeah. And so what other spaces would you say that are really interesting, like right now, or for the couple of next years?
I mean, I think a lot of these, we're just beginning to explore a lot of these markets. So, Chris Dixon has a really wonderful framework he talks about in his book. And I've been rereading his book, Read, Write, Own. And I recommend it if you haven't, because the whole book is about sort of product cycles and transitions to new technologies. So in it, he describes what he calls skumorphic technology and native technologies. And what that usually means is that when there's a new technology, people build things with the old assumptions at first. That's what he calls skumorphic. And then eventually a sort of native format or a native thing emerges that wasn't previously possible. And a great example of this, if you look back to the emergence of the photograph, right? So photographs initially just looked a lot like paintings. That was kind of the skumorphic implementation. But then we eventually got films and movies, right? And films and movies were totally new. That was the native execution of the photography as a medium. So I think we're seeing a lot of the same thing, you know. And by the way, we saw this in mobile too. When mobile first came out, people would build these desktop apps, but smaller, you know. And it took a few years before people started thinking, hey, Airbnb, Uber, WhatsApp, these are apps that could not have existed on desktop. Those are the native apps and technologies. So I think if you look at a lot of these categories, you know, therapy and companionship is a great example. We're building these chat bots in a way that we might have built them 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years ago. And we're not really thinking about what is the AI native version of a lot of these things. Social is another great example. You know, we haven't seen a lot of companies building social products. And I think the reason for that is they're all saying, hey, how about you have a follower graph and you have a news feed and you have some AI generated friends in there. But I don't think that's what sort of AI platformed friendship looks like. So it feels very early. There's a few things that are working like voice, app gen, creative tools, companionship. But I think generally the big change is going to be we're going to start to see these very AI native implementations of categories that have previously existed.
Yeah, I have a good example of one of those. One space that I've been looking for a while was accounting, like accounting in software. Like I feel it's like like for entrepreneurs, it's always like a pain to manage accounting. You know, like accounting and tax rather, not kind of like metrics, but more like towards the tax thing. You know, and there's like a bunch of companies that are solving it already. Obviously, like a big one is QuickBooks, but there's like really like a lot of startups that are solving it already. And one of the ones that I was looking at, like I think 2 years ago, like right before, like we had like a lot of AI applications already, had like an interface in which you would upload your tickets and then you would have like an accountant, like a real life accountant on the other side of the interface. No, in last like I don't know, 3 months ago, I went to SF and I met like these guys that had built an agent that scans your emails and looks for the invoices and automatically like sends it out to the accountant. So it's kind of like a different way of solving the problem. And I think it's a good example of how like, and these guys were really young, so they haven't, you know, I think they didn't have like the mental kind of like
assumptions.
Exactly. So that's
I love that. It's such a great example. And then, by the way, in the future, you could imagine it looks through your invoices, it sees, oh, you're paying $20 a month for this piece of software. I just generated a piece of software for you. Oh, and by the way, it's a little bit better than what you're paying for. Do you want to use it? Yes or no? Like maybe that's the kind of future of spend management. You know, we don't know, but it's a great example.
Yeah. Wow. And the other day, I did a podcast with Spencer Skates, the founder of Amplitude, and he was saying that the future of software is kind of like self-improving products.
Yes.
Do you think we'll get to a place where, yeah, you have your AI and it's kind of like every product that you use, every software product is built by your AI?
No, I don't think so. So I think that there's going to be a huge new category around personal software. So I think that's some of the software that we're talking about. And some of that personal software might be more than just for you. It might be for, 20 people, 50 people, 100 people. I think there's going to still be a lot of software that is somewhat mass market. And I think the reason for that is software that's kind of an interface to a network or a marketplace, right? Networks are better when more people participate. Mm-hmm. So maybe I could generate my own Airbnb, but it's going to be pointless because there'll be nowhere to stay.
Right.
So if the product is the network, then like it kind of benefits from the scale. If the product is a sort of SaaS app that has no network effects and no increasing returns to scale, then maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's absolutely a good point. And so what so actively now you're looking at companies worldwide, or are you focused more in the US?
I mean, we invest in a lot of international founders. I'm Canadian. I came here as an immigrant as well, and we have done a lot internationally. But I think that my favorite type of founder are the folks that are either maybe overseas and planning to come to San Francisco or already in San Francisco. It just feels like at this moment, there's so much value in being in this community physically, because just these small conversations that we're having with each other and the things that you overhear and the parties that you're at. So I think that there's never been more important to have some connection to San Francisco, but I understand not everyone can do that. So we've been open-minded, but we love the kind of the Happy Robots or the Krias where they're, both from Barcelona and both here now.
Yeah. No, I mean, the atmosphere in San Francisco is just amazing. Like I think this year I've been like 3 times or 4 times. So it's been kind of like, I've been going a lot, and every time I go there, it's just mind blowing. Like the people that you meet, the mindset that people have, it's super special. I don't think there's any place like that in the world.
I agree. It's very, very special. I also think what's exciting is that this technology is something that, like there's certain types of software that you would only build because you have a market as big as the United States. But now if the cost of building software is going to zero, you could imagine a lot more software being built for countries around the world. So I do think that this is finally our why now for why are you going to see a lot more, homegrown companies in Spain building great software for the local market. But anyway, that's a different thing. I agree. Right now, the energy in San Francisco is off the hook,
Yeah, yeah. And if you were going to build a company right now, what do you think you would build?
Oh, man. There's so many directions to go in. I mean, the thing that I'm having the most fun with is everything around app generation and new ways to make software. So I'd probably poke something in and around that. It feels like people are doing a lot of things with these models, but a lot of the things that they're doing are staying private to them. So what we really haven't seen is an AI native network product for consumers. So what does that actually look like? I mean, obviously there's been a native network for every part of the sort of product cycle. We saw content networks during Web 1.0. Of course, during Web 2.0, you have Facebook and social networks, So what are networks in this era? And how do we get more of the software that people are building and even the prompts that they're generating into a place where the rest of the world can consume and use them? So I'm very interested in this concept of AI native networks. And that's probably where I would start.
Right. It sounds pretty interesting, although it's not easy to kind of like visualize how it's going to look like, Like I've used, I'm sure you've seen tools like Bordy. I think they're like really interesting. I think they're kind of like the first type of usage of LLMs to connect people. Although I do feel that the interface of using something like LinkedIn that you can see is richer than just kind of like, voice or just email. So
yes,
it's interesting to see how it's going to, because obviously like now you have in parallel, which is maybe not in the startup world, but we're seeing a lot in the startup world, all these kind of like metaverse tools, kind of Apple Vision Pro. Obviously, like I think they're going to go for Vision Pro 2. Meta is also like working on that. So at some point, we're going to see these merge. I don't know. Are you into that kind of stuff?
Possible. I mean, you bring up a really interesting point, which is like there's so much value in a familiar interface. And I think Karpathy talks to us about this a lot in his very good YC talk, which is how do you bring the AI to a familiar interface and kind of keep it on a leash? Because I think right now the AI is magic, but it's still what it can do is being overpromised, especially in areas like agents. So I think that having a familiar interface with a really ambitious way to engage with AI in it, like the IDE, is one really good direction. The other direction that you can go in is have a totally unfamiliar interface, which means that your customer has no expectations going in. I think those are two. You might pick one or the other for different reasons, but I do think that having no interface at all is a much harder way to roll your product out, which is why voice works well in a certain, it works well to intermediate this. But you typically have to build a lot of software and a lot of sort of, engagement layers around the voice software. And you kind of can't have one without the other.
Yeah. And I think like for voice, it makes sense that it works for the use cases that before you were already using voice. No? So
Yes.
for customer success, if you were calling already, like the
Correct.
customer, people are used to just calling, no? And makes sense that it works. But for social networks, maybe it's harder.
It's harder. Yeah. It's not a familiar interface in that context. What would you be building right now?
I don't know. I mean, if I were going to build something, I think I would go. So I think I would go for the thing that I'm building with this guy from Siri. Like I'm thinking about, I think that email is still really underrated. Like not underrated, underused or under exploded. I don't know how to explain, but I think there's still like a lot of opportunity in tapping the email. And so I was thinking the same way that you have like a feed on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Instagram, you can use email as a feed, no? So imagine that you build an AI that gives you like sends you like a daily email with the stuff that really matters for you. And you get like hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers, and you can use that email as a way to, kind of like a marketplace. You can use it as if it were like the LinkedIn feed. So you're sending information, you have sponsors that you can, get revenues from, and you can also have like several tiers. So you have like the freemium one, which is like basic knowledge, and then you have like a paid tier that can send you connecting you with, I don't know if it's kind of like the premium would be like B2B, would be like connecting you with investors, founders, potential leads of your company. Then there's another like possible layer, which is like connecting with your calendar, so it can send you like a daily kind of like email, or even creating materials for your meetings and stuff like that. So I would play around that. I think and also like I think there's so much opportunity in email. Everyone is focusing on going viral on LinkedIn or on, but still like everyone uses their email every day. So
Yes. Cool. Well, you should start it. I'd love to be your seed investor.
yeah, maybe at some point. Okay.
Thanks for having me. All right, Guillermo.
Publish this.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.